Okay, Shabbat Shalom Mishpaha. I guess another little check to see that I'm coming through clear. Because there's lots of my laptop is doing lots of different updates as we speak. As you know that I've been away for a little while, and every time you come back and re-kickstart your local laptop, it goes through 1 million updates. So all sorts of software are doing wonderful updates on the internet, and so that's happening in the background as we speak. But I wanted to, maybe I thought a good idea is to give you a brief. You know the situation, what's happening around the world. You know there's a war raging on in the East, and I do not think that in America, on my travels, by the way, I have safe travels, and I give thanks to Abba Yudhewahi. I give him thanks for my safe travels, and I think I didn't see anything untowards on the travels. And coming into the US, I didn't see anything in the US that I could say is untoward. In America, people are not talking about the war. I'm talking about, locally speaking, people are not showing any kind of interest what's happening in the East. That's what I've noticed. You don't go out there in the supermarket and people are talking about, hey, there's Ukraine is on fire and Russia's at war, and nobody's talking about these things over here. It's basically, unless you're attached to some media channel, like you're listening to news, Fox News, CNN, whatever, local channels you have, nobody's really talking about the war, unless you're on the media. The only one that's talking about war is media. So it again brings me down to an important testimony, which I will probably yeah, that's right, Rabbi Kefa. They're probably talking about price of food and gas. And I've noticed that coming through to, when I came in late not last night, night before, I noticed that the price of gas, of course, is fairly high. We're talking about some parts $4 and above, some parts just below $4, and it's shocking. To me, it's just total shocking that a country that is self-sufficient in gas and many other things, God has blessed this nation with many things, and here we are talking about $4 something for a gallon, and you got to be honest about it. I think this is a problem. We have to be honest. In Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Zakaria, we have to be simply honest, Rabbi Kefa, because we can lie to ourselves, we can lie to the public. I think that there's only so many lies you can tell yourself as well. Sometimes you have to come honest to yourself as well. Rather than we blame President Putin and say that he's the cause of our gas prices and he's the cause of our food shortages and food prices, I think that is absolutely not true. Whoever says it, with all due respect to the president of this nation, President Biden, I do not believe that his policies are helping in the world. He has lost respect in the East tremendously as a result of what's going on over there right now. And you all know about the 30 laboratories, biological laboratories. They can give it whatever label they like at this point. They can call it research, they can call it whatever they want to. But the problem is this, that when legal, local or national or federal laws do not allow you certain things in this country, you go and do that in another country because you are not held responsible, and then you can just tell the public whatever you like. And you know it, and I know it, and Mr. President, if you're listening, you know it, that you're all lying about what's going on in Ukraine with Russia, and telling the public bunch of lies, bunch of mistruths, and just trying to line up your pockets with profits, money that and you're giving away taxpayers' monies, $6.9 billion approved for Ukraine. What for exactly? I think we all, even if we call ourselves American citizens, we all have a right to know that, as a taxpayer and as the member of this society, that why are we giving away $6.9 billion to Ukraine? What has Ukraine given us? But again, this is politics, and it's just a question, I'm just asking a question. What have they given us that we need to give them this money? And why should Americans pay for higher gas prices when we are self-sufficient? And these are, questions that only the Congress and our president can answer and give the public whatever answers they feel are right. And I'm pretty sure that majority of the answers that are given are not honest answers. They are just, you know it and I know it what they are. So I won't publicly share that. But let's come back to the Torah a little bit and look at our history and look at what the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob has to tell us. Here we are today we go by the calendar of Enoch, Hanuk calendar, as you know it. It's already on the website, Abrahamic-Faith.info. You can get it from there under Ask the Rabbi if you want it, if you want to follow it. And this is what we follow, and this is what we've been following for many years. And some of my students, they follow the lunar calendar, and that's okay, because by the lunar calendar the biblical new year just started in April. And we have already started our biblical new year by the Hanuk calendar back March 21. We all know it. It's a memorable date. You don't even need to look at the calendar, because if you have been following the Hanuk calendar for Enoch calendar for any amount of time, you know that our dates never change. You know that our festival dates never change. Tomorrow, April 3rd is our Passover, right? So tomorrow is our Passover, and it will never change. You know it, and you can follow it with your eyes shut. That's how good it is. It never changes. Our dates don't change. Our festival dates don't change. We don't have to look up the moon and wonder, is it a black moon? Is it a dark moon? Is it a sliver? All of that nonsense is just total BS and nonsense. Okay, don't follow that nonsense. Don't behave like that. Don't be a religionist. Because if you are into any institutionalized religion, you will be, for the majority of your lives, you will be made a fool of. And then when you are given wisdom by God, and you'll come to realization that all these years you were being taught a mistruth, and you will be very angry, probably, and then you'll probably correct yourself. So a good time to correct yourself is 2022. 2nd of April. Good time to correct yourself. Don't have to worry another 10 years, another decade passes, then you correct yourself. So coming back to the Pasha, in the book of Leviticus, chapters verse 6, verse 8, and Yudhevah spoke to Moshe, saying, and there is actually, interestingly, I want to point out that you do not see this in your English Bibles, but in the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls, there is actually a word there in the Hebrew language, which is in the mim, the M letter, as we call it in the Hebrew, is in the very small format. In the copies of the Torah, I won't say the original because that won't be accurate. We have copies and copies and copies of the Torah scrolls, and they're in various museums. They're under the Tanakh label or under some other label. We have different codices. I don't want to go through the codices, the whole history. Leningrad Codex, and then there's other codexes. Then you have the Christians go by their labels. They have their Christian Bibles, Alexandrian Codex, Septuagint, and all these different labels. So let's not waste our time with those labels, because they don't teach us and tell us nothing. So I want to go straight to the heart of the matter and tell you that in the Hebrew, when this was written by Moses, or whoever you believe that wrote this books down, I believe it was Moses, when he wrote this, penned this down in the first place, and then it was copied later by different scribes. the letter mem was put in the short, and I put a footnote there, and I say something there that is very important. I'm going to have to open up my Hebrew Bible if I can find it. Everything is all over the place over here. I don't know what's where. And so let me see if I can actually open it. Probably my software, half of it is not working right now. So, but coming back to this word, come on, let me just maybe I'll open up an internet copy. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can open up a internet copy of the Bible. If I can, it's okay. If I can't, it's okay either. Then I can just talk about it. No, it's all over the place as I thought. Book of Leviticus, and just as I thought, it's going to be called Vayikra, and then open up another page. We have chapter 6, and can I get to it? Chapter 6. Let me look at my one, at least it'll tell me more. Okay, we're at verse 8, and unfortunately the thing that we have is it does not tell us in this reading on the internet. It will not show us the lower case m, and it will not tell us nothing. There's nothing here. It's just Hebrew, bunch of Hebrew that you look at, and it means mumbo jumbo to you. You're gonna know nothing about it from just looking at this, because it's just in the normal printed Hebrew. So Mokda means nothing to you over here if you look at the Hebrew word. It's absolutely meaningless, unfortunately. And that's basically, let me just read the end a bit. And let's see where we are. So we are in Pasha Zav. So we are there. Zav et Aaron vet banav lemor zot Torah ha'olah. Hiv ha'olah al mokda. That's the word. Mokda is a word. Al mokda. I'm talking about this particular word. If you look at it, it means mumbo jumbo to you, and it means nothing to you. And by looking at the Hebrew, it is just mumbo jumbo to anybody who looks at it, unless I look at it and I know that mim is his normal size in this reading on the internet, or even if you have it downloaded, it'll probably be normal size. So, al hamizbeach kul halayla ad habocher ve'esh hamizbeach tukad bo. Okay, so I'll tell you what that means in a second, but I'm interested in the word mokta, and it basically says this in my translation. Let's come back to my translation now, which might give me some head and tail of it. And it says, command. First it says, and Yudhevah spoke to Moses, saying, command Aaron and his sons, saying. Again, this applies. Remember I told you last week, this book is for the priesthood. This applies to us. This is for us. This is for us to teach us things, or how to do certain aspects of legal, ritual, and other alignments with the Torah, with the principles of the Torah. It says, command Aaron and his sons. Well, if you're not Aaron's sons, it doesn't apply to you. Okay, so, but it is for me, it applies to me, and I've got to learn this, and I've got to know this, because this is how our forefathers did it, and this is how we're going to do it in the future. But this has application right now in different way, which I may or may not explain to you. It says, this is the instruction of the burnt offering. It is the burnt offering because of the burning upon the altar all night to the morning, and the fire of the altar shall be burning in it. And the Kohen shall put on his linen garment, and his linen undergarments shall he put upon his flesh, and take up the ashes which the fire has consumed with the burnt offering on the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar. And he shall put off his garments, and put on other garments, and carry forth the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. And the fire upon the altar shall be burning in it, it shall not be put out, and the Kohen, meaning the priest, shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in arrangement, and he shall burn thereon the fat of the shalom offering. The fire shall ever be burning upon the altar, it shall never go out. And this is the instruction of the grain offerings. The sons of Aaron shall offer it before Yudhe-Wahe, before the altar. Okay, so as you can see, the total is about Aaron and his sons. Okay, so if you're not Aaron's sons, it doesn't apply to you. So, but it does, the principles apply, and I will look at the principles. Now the small mem, which you don't see, which is, like I told, is mumbo jumbo if you don't know. And if you know, then yes, it means something to you. Small mem, I have a footnote in the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls. This is why Rabbi Kefa keeps telling you to get that, because if you just go on the internet and you're like one of those freebies, oh, I'm going to get it free, and just go and read the King James Version. That is in English, doesn't tell you nothing. The Hebrew one doesn't tell you nothing either. So your free one gives you zero information. And here the Hidden Truths one tells you in a footnote, the small mem or the small m in the English language, in this specific verse, water, and in women it would specify the womb. Here the man's soul is figuratively on the altar if it was not for the animal taking his place. Okay, that's the footnote. Now there's a lot bigger explanation behind that, but I won't bore you with it, because we'll be here for maybe 16 hours if I did. But you would probably learn a lot. If I did, you would probably learn a lot, because there's a lot there. But I want to go straight to the heart of the matter, and thank you for attending the room. If you attended our room, it's the first time, welcome. We are not biased about your religion and about what you believe or what you don't believe. I'm not biased, neither is Rabbi Kefa. You could believe whatever your belief is. I will respect that. If you're in the room, we'll give you, we will give you what testimony or belief or what can help you in your life. And I want to come straight to the point, and I want to give you a testimony, because I don't want to talk about the book of Moses. Just talking about it will not teach you nothing, but a testimony may be better. There are nations in the world today that go by different religious names, and you know that. Some of them might call themselves Christians, some of them call themselves Muslims, and some of them call themselves Jews, and some of them call themselves other. That's beside the point. But I know this, and this is the testimony I want to talk about, that if you apply a principle of the Torah, and I'm talking about the Torah here and not about some mumbo jumbo other religion that some jack on the trade made it up, like 300 years ago. I'm not talking about that kind of religion. I'm talking about tried and tested principles of the Torah, and I'm talking about a real family over here. This is not a maybe thing. And the real thing is this, that I know a businesswoman, and I want to talk about a little bit testimony of the businesswoman, and she's in the East, and of course a great friend of mine. We became great friends, and I asked her simple question, because they carry the principles of the Torah in their life. I've seen it. I've seen the wealth that they have in their family. Just by what she's told me, and this information didn't come in a day, by the way. This took several months to get to this point, because you ask somebody a question and they don't tell you immediately the answer. They might tell you a snippet, and you have to wait for the other bits. As your friendship increases with people, you will learn the same thing. You don't go to a businessman and he doesn't tell you all his business secrets in one day. If you wanted to learn, first of all, he won't tell you nothing. Secondly, if you really were close with that person and they wanted to tell you, then they would tell you enough for you to know. Okay? So, same way, I asked her, I said, well, what is the secret? How do you live? How do you live and how do you make money over here? Because in America, in England, in Europe, we do it different way. How do you do it? And she told me, she said, okay, I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, sometimes maybe midnight, and I get up late. I said, okay, that's interesting. So what time do you get up? She said, I get up at midday, 12 o'clock, midday, right? So that was one story. And there's other stories where I've met people over there and I have talked to them and I have learned a heck of a lot. I tell you, I have learned so much in my travels, unbelievable. She told me I get up at midday. She said, I get up at midday, I love my sleep. She said, I sleep 11 or 12 o'clock. I get up at midday, I do my thing, my little ritual, shower, bath and all that, and breakfast, and they have servants in their house, 4 servants, and they have 4 bodyguards with guns. They have 4 cars as a parade when she goes out. She doesn't go out with a single bodyguard. She goes out with a bunch of them, a rich family. And then she told me, so okay, so tell me, so what do you do? She said, okay. She said to me that what I do is I have business, as you know. And I said, yes, I know about your businesses. And she has beauty salons, a number of them. And I asked her, I said, so how do you run it? Because you're sleeping at 11 o'clock and waking up at 12 midday. My goodness, 11 hours of sleep. She said, yes. And she said, what I do is I go after my breakfast. She has a late breakfast. She goes and checks. The stores are opened by whoever is supposed to go and open the store in the morning, 10 o'clock. Some girl, she employs a number of women, a number of ladies, young girls and mature girls and all sorts of different age groups. Especially most of them are probably under 30, and she employs them. She goes and she checks on the store. Everything is okay. She doesn't do any work by herself. This is the life of a rich person, by the way. This is things that you'll never hear from anybody else. I'm giving you the inside scoop now, how people live. And she just ordered a brand new car, and it's probably going to arrive the next, maybe tomorrow, maybe day after tomorrow. It's arriving at her door. A brand new car as well, by the way, worth maybe about, and let me tell you the worth of that car. A car worth $60,000. Think about it. In Pakistan, right? And you talking about America. They live better in over there than I've seen people live over here. So I was like, okay, so you're getting your $60,000 car, and congratulations for that. And she said, sure. And she said, thank you. And then she said, my car is coming in. I am basically, I just check my businesses. I don't sit there. I don't, lecture them. I've already trained my girls. They do their thing. I go over there to the store and they're doing ABC, different ladies coming in. And she said to me, listen. She said to me, listen. She calls me Sam. She says, listen, Sam, you're a great man. You're a good guy. You're a great man. I know that. And she said that I go to my business and I tell my girls how's things, and they tell me everything is in order, and I leave. Then maybe I feel like going to the next store and look, and if I don't, I go shopping. And she goes to me, if you have time, I want to invite you to the most expensive coffee you can have in this country. She invited me to a store which has the most expensive coffee in that country, and it's like $25 a cup. And I politely said to her that I'd love to come, but it's miles away. It's miles away. It's like right over there, 175 miles from where I am. And she said, yes, but if you are in the area, then catch me up and I will buy you that cup of coffee. And then I will sit with you, and if you want to ask me anything else, then I can tell you. And I said, okay, well, you can tell me on the call, little bits and pieces. And she then told me. But the most glaring truth that I got from her was this: the Torah principle that she applied, her father applied in his and their life. And that's what shocked me. And I was like, my goodness. We have people in America, in Israel, in England, in France, in Germany, all over the place, doing their little thing, their little dance, and they still can't get off the ground. I'm talking about Israel people as well, by the way, the Jews as well. And the Jews are not out of this. They're also, if you are anything to do with Israel, you are Jewish, okay? Talking to you, so-called Israelites. And, they can't get off the ground. And I have a family over here that are applying a principle of the Torah. They are Muslims, but they follow the Torah. At least 70% of the tenets of the Torah are there. And they're applying it. They're not just talking about it, they're doing it. And her father does one. And you know what? I was absolutely shocked. For me, this was shocking. That I have been talking Torah, teaching it for maybe over 22 years now. Maybe more. Maybe more than that. I've actually translated Bibles from the Hebrew language, from the Aramaic language. You know that. And I can, I have it down to a science. It's written on the back of my hand, I can tell you what word is where and what it says. But this family was applying it, and I saw the application, and it was beautiful. When I saw the application of it, I was like, wow, that is the application of Torah. If only some people understood it, but they don't. And that's why they struggle and they never get there. And you know how much zadaqah or how much tithing they take out of their just the father. You know what he does? He takes out $3,200 worth of money every month, and he makes about, I'm giving you just a summary, 20 food parcels. And those 20 food parcels go to 20 families, and they feed 20 families. And you know what the girl told me? She said, we have never been short of money. Never in our life. And she said, thank God. She said, thanks be to Allah. And I said, praise God myself as well. I said, praise God for that, if you've never been short of money. And she said, we've never been short of money. And I give praise to God, and it's okay to God call Allah, because the Bible calls God Allah as well in number of places. And so she said, I praise God that we've never been short. And my father does this month in, month out. He calls his servant. They have different servants, and one servant comes and goes to a big store, maybe like Walmart. Similarly, he gets his food parcels. He brings all the food. They make the parcels, and then they distribute them every month. And I'm giving you a summary. It could be more than 20 families, but this is what I gleaned over a number of months from her. So 20 families get the food, and the father drives a big luxury car, the brother drives a luxury car, and the girl drives a luxury car. And as I was crossing the Atlantic, they were coming back from Dubai. They were going to be heading back from Dubai on their vacation. So the rich live a rich life, not because they are specially born with a golden spoon in their mouth. It's because they follow principles of the Torah, which I keep telling people. And what do the people do? They listen in. They think this is a church, right? This is a church for many people. They treat it like a church. They never tithe. They never give any zadaqah. And if they give zadaqah or tithe, you know what their tithe is? It's a shame. That's what their tithe is. They might send $5. They might send $2. They might send $7. Is that 10%? I asked them, is that 10%? And of course it's not 10%. It's a shame to even call it a tithe. And so I say to them, keep it to yourself. I don't need your money. Next time, best you don't even do it. And I'm not going to teach you nothing. That's it. We're done. We're done with Torah. You don't know what Torah is, and you don't need to know. So we forget about it. We just move on. You have your life, and you keep living your impoverished life, because you'll never get off the ground. I know that. And I don't want to teach you principles of the Torah just to make a mockery of God. It's a mockery of God's law to even teach you that, and yet you don't follow it. So here, this is why I want to give you a real example. I didn't want to just talk about, I read this book and it said this. I want to give you a real example of a living person that I know, that I am aware of, that I spoke to, and almost every 2 or 3 days. Whenever that person sent me a message, I spoke to that person and I asked her this question. And I sat with different business people. I sat with millionaires in Pakistan. Millionaires, by the way. I probably haven't spent that much time sitting with millionaires in America, but I have over there. I spent time with them. I sat with them. I drank tea with them. I drank coffee with them. I had dinners with them. And I asked them the one central question. What is the secret, or at least what is the source of your success? I always ask this question to my friends. What is the source of your success? And they all say to me, because I told you what they know me as, and they say to me this. I said, you all know what I am. I said, I'm a great man, and I go and do great things. And they said, yes, you are a great man, we know that, and we respect that. But they said that this is the source of our success. This is what we do, and this is how we do it, and we are very happy, and we give thanks. They always say this. They say we give thanks to God. Always they say that we give thanks to God. And I always say, praise God for that. I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy for your success, that you are successful. And it's better to be successful than to be unsuccessful and measly and crying and whining all the time. And then I had these children who were maybe 9 years old, maybe 10 years old, maybe 12 years old. They come to me, I go to a store, local store, like you do, to Walmart or somewhere, and they come to you, and you're in the car, and you haven't even come out, and they come to you, and they're begging for money. They want let's just call it $1. They want $1, and the first spiel they give you is that they are poor. And I tell them, I always told these children, I said, listen, son, and listen, daughter, whoever you are, whoever is sent you over here to collect money, please don't ever call yourself poor. Because by saying that you are poor, you're going to set this as an affirmation for your life. You are setting yourself to be poor for the rest of your life, and you'll never get off the ground. So please, don't, stop this dollar crying, and stop this poverty crying. Stop this. If you want to get educated, go get educated. Get off the street and go learn, because you have been given the ability to become wealthy by God, and you are wasting your life for somebody else who's put you to this and destroying your life as a child. I said that to so many children over there. And then I will see these ladies, they come up, these young girls, in their 20s, they'd come up carrying a child, or maybe in their 30s, they're carrying a baby, and you can't say if that baby is theirs or not, and they'll be also begging, and they might have a little piece of paper in their hands, and the piece of paper has a story on it, and they want you to read it. Nobody has time to read over there. They don't read it. They just give you a little spiel, and they want $1, and they go away. And when I say $1, it's not $1. It's a lot less. I'm just giving it as an example, as a summary. Maybe it's about 10 cents. They just want their 10 cents, and they go away, and their story shut down. And so a man comes up to me and says to me that I have 3 daughters, and all 3 daughters, and he had one on his motorcycle, and he says all 3 daughters were born blind. And I go to the hospital, and I do this and I do that and get this treatment, but they're born blind. And he wanted help, and I said to the man, I said to him, listen, I give him something, but I said to him this. I said, listen to me carefully. Listen to what I have to say. I have come from outside this country. I'm not from here, as you can tell. He said, yeah, I can tell. I said, there are people in America, in England, in other countries that are born blind as well. They don't go around begging. You don't see them on the street saying, my father or my mother gave me birth and I was born blind, now I need help. So I said, it's okay, for people to support the blind. I'm not against it. But to go around making it a business is not right. That is not right. I said, you need to think about that. I just suggest you need to think about that. That's all. I said, it is in God's hands whether He makes you blind or whether He makes you with sight. But unfortunately, this is kind of funny. There are so many people in this world that have real eyes that can see, but they live a blind life. They live the life of a robot. And even though they can see, they are still blind. So, to me, right, that man's, call it unfortunate for him having 3 daughters that are blind. It's more unfortunate for the seeing to be blind, because they can see, but they are still dead. They still have no life. So, what did I learn from this? talking to my different rich friends, sitting with different rich people, rubbing shoulders with them, eating, drinking. When I have my time, I sat with the poor, I sat with the lowly. I went to the most lowliest person you can think of, and I sat in their house. And if they offered me a glass of water, I drank it, even out of their glass. I didn't say, oh, you're too poor and I don't drink from your glass. I drank it. I thank them and I drink their water. And I go to the richest person over there who has, luxury cars parked, about, 4 or 5 of them on their garage front, and a huge big house. Not a small house. By American standards, big house. Right? And I sat in their house and I had the best, glass given to me, and I thank them as well. And I drink their water, or soda as you call it, or whatever soft drink, and I drank it and I give thanks. And before I even give them thanks, I read the prayer and I give thanks to God. You know that. So before I even give them thanks, I do my prayer in my mind and I give thanks to God, and I give thank you to them as well, to those people. And I sat in the best cars you can think of. You probably never even sat in a car. Some of you may have, and some of you probably never seen one, let alone sit in one. And I've sat in those cars with them. I had the privilege to sit in those cars and just go for a little ride. And they go somewhere and they take me along and they show me their business or whatever things they do. But the thing that I learned is this. I'm not boasting about what I do, because I do great things in the world and people love me for it. All over the world people love me because I do great things. I change their life. But I want to tell you this, is that what did I learn out of all of this is that the key to success is not that you're born with a golden spoon in your mouth, because many of us are not born with a golden spoon, but we are, all of us, if we call ourselves the house of Israel, whether you joined it today or whether you joined it 10 years ago or whether you joined it 50 years ago, doesn't matter how many years you joined it ago, you have a covenant with God, and that is key to your success. Meaning, God will never lie to you, and you have the God component, as they call it in England, God component. This machine has God component in it, and they talk about it and they spend years and years researching on it, and then they say, oh yeah, but they're atheist and this and that and the third, and then they talk about this God component, and then they talk about the galaxy, and they try to make sense of the sciences. But you can do that the rest of your life and get nowhere. Or you can simply like me, believe that God has a covenant with you, and you agree to his covenant, and he has agreed with you, and you were not there. Because I spoke to somebody who I know, I won't give you his name, but he lives in Europe, and he said to me that, talked about a covenant, and I said, yes, your forefathers. He said, I said, we spoke about a passage in the Torah, and one of the passages in the book of Deuteronomy. I said, listen, you were not there. But you meaning us. We were not there, but our forefathers were. Our forefathers were there. And we accepted this covenant without being there because we were not yet born. We were going to be born in 2000 whatever, or 19 something. So you were born later, but you are already in the covenant. He said, oh, but how? I said, how? I said, this is how, because your forefathers and my forefathers were standing there on Mount Sinai when God came down in a cloud and fire came down, and that mountain is still there, by the way, in Saudi Arabia. You could go and look it up on the internet. And I said, the mountain is still there. We were there. We accepted the covenant even without being born. Our forefathers said yes, and God said, even those that are not here are part of the covenant. Yeah, Al-Bad is the place. Thank you, Rabbi Kefa. So I said, you were there. You're part of the covenant. What covenant do you want to sign up now? What do you want to sign up now? Something new? I said loud. I said, don't be stupid. You're already part of the covenant. You're already there. So your forefathers were standing there. So you don't need somebody else to tell you that you got to sign up a new contract, a new covenant. So we have covenants, just like nations have contracts or covenants. And Russia said to the world recently, Russia said to the world that those of you, my enemies, President Putin said, those of you who don't like me, you got to all pay the money to me in rubles, not in dollars, because you want to make a mockery of Russians and Russia and Mr. Putin and come up with all sorts of theories. And so he said you got to all pay in rubles, and Europe turned around. And what's Europe going to do? Europe said Europe has no choice, but they have contracts, right? They said, we have a contract with you. And Russia said, yes, of course you do. Of course you have contract with me to supply your gas. So now what? They said, well, in your contract it says that we can pay you in euros and in dollars until this contract expires. And they said, and Mr. Putin turned around and said, yes, I have no problem with that. Until that contract expires, you can pay in dollars and euros. But when this contract expires, you are going to be paying in rubles. And if you don't pay in rubles, you don't get no gas, okay? So, and India said, we will pay you in rubles, and China said, we will pay you in rubles, we will convert the yuan into rubles, and we'll pay you, and everybody else said, yes, no problem. So, last night, as you may have heard, there was a big attack on one of the Russian cities that Ukraine has neither agreed to, neither denied, but they sent helicopters, low flying, and they attacked one of their oil depots and they destroyed it successfully, and then now they're in denial and they don't want to acknowledge it. And by the way, Americans, my American citizens, my American if I can make call you my brothers and sisters, well, we're all humanity, we're all brothers and sisters technically, but my fellow Americans, your dollars, your taxpayer dollars are used to support this war and then to do unnecessary evil. Okay, so know that. Dollars from this country are being used to create unnecessary evil, and maybe there is a benefit in that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm not in God's place to dictate that. But always out of evil, good can come out. God can create good out of evil as well. So right now there is, people are suffering in Ukraine not because America wants them to suffer or some other nation or Russia. And yes, we can all say Russia is bad and Mr. Putin is a Frankenstein and whatever the label you want to give him. But really, at the end of the day, I just want to bring it home to this, that persistency is the key. Okay? Don't expect something for nothing, and don't ever write to me and say to me, oh please can you send me a free Torah, because I'm not going to send you a free Bible anymore. Okay? I'm not going to send it to you, so don't ever write to me and insult yourself, because you'll just be insulting yourself. I won't even respond. Those people in Kenya, Rabbi Kefa, do you remember those people? We went to Kenya and they rejected the Torah outright. So-called Christians, okay? Talking to you now, Kenyans. And they rejected it, and I never responded back to them. And today they're right. I had this email yesterday begging for money, and we orphans and children and this, that, and the blah, 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 and all this, please send us some help. And I never even respond to emails like that any longer, because they rejected the Torah. Bye-bye, Kenya. We said bye-bye. I said to Rabbi Kefa a number of years ago, Rabbi Kefa, we're no longer going to do any work in Africa. It's bye-bye Africa, because you're just the backyard of the world. You're just a garbage can, and we've got no time for you, because you rejected the Torah and I rejected you. That's it. We're done with you. And we walked away, and we never contacted those people ever again. Good riddance to them. So this is what I'm saying. If you reject our Torah, whoever you are, I'm going to say bye-bye and I'm gone. And you can do whatever you want to, and maybe you'll see me in a decade time, driving a Mercedes, and you'll be wondering, what the heck happened to this man? How did he get his Mercedes? And where did he get his money? And blah, 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 and all that. And you will never know, because, God is the one who's my supporter, and God is the one I have covenant with. And that God will always take care of me, because He never lies to me. He has never left me, and He will never forsake me. And that God I have trusted. All my previous years I've trusted Him, without seeing Him. I don't need to see him to trust him. I know he's always been there. He's even spoken to me a number of times, and I've heard his voice a number of times. But I've learned this, just my summary, that persistence is the key. If you are persistent with the Torah, if you are honest with the laws of God, let's just call it simply what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. If you're honest with God, God is honest with you. If you're dishonest with God and all you can give God is $2 and that's the best you can do, then shame on you. Go away. Don't waste my time and don't waste God's time either. Because even Israel, a small nation, not even the size of New Jersey, Ukraine begging went to them and said, please go to Mr. Putin, go to the president and beg for us and say for us that please stop the war. Think about it. Think about the power that God has given in the Torah to this nation, and the rest I leave to you to decide. If you want to be a beggar for the rest of your life, continue with it. But my students, those of you who know me, I'm a great man and I'm a great teacher, and I have taken you from the grounds to the sky, and sky is not the limit, by the way. There is no such thing as sky is the limit. That's a lie. There is no limit. We go beyond the sky into space and beyond space, and we can go to eternity together, and we could have a blessed life, a happy life, a great life. It's up to you what you choose. Choose this day, as the Torah says, and I will take you to the Torah, and I can read you the Hebrew, but I don't read you the Hebrew because I'm not here to impress my Hebrew upon you. But I can take you to the Hebrew, but I'd rather take you to the English, the language that you speak, all of you. And I can speak, I speak many languages, by the way. And when I speak many languages, I talk to the people in the language they understand. And they're shocked because they say, how did you speak this language? And I say, well, that's another thing. I have gifts, many gifts. I speak to trees, I speak to animals. And they look at me and they're like, wow, how do you talk to these birds? And what do they say to you? And how did you talk to this tree? And I said, listen, I'm not here to explain to you how I talk to the tree and how I talk to the bird. That's a gift that God has given me. But what's more important is this, that this is what our God has told us, and this is what I'm going to tell you, is simply this. I call the heaven and the earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your seed may live. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi, trying to be here. Can I get a one? Rabbi, welcome back to Decided Upon. My lecture today is going to be short and sweet. I'm going to just get right to the point as well. We're coming up on our high holy days, and you all know. If you didn't know, you all know. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, Mishpachah. If you didn't know, you should notice that we don't come to our festivals empty-handed. So make sure you understand that going forward. We got unleavened bread and Passover and unleavened bread like knocking at the door as remembrance. I want you all to understand that going forward. Mishpachah, this life is so wonderful and so beautiful. Don't shortchange yourself in this life by shortchanging yourself by trying to take shortcuts. Torah is not negotiable. Understand that as well. Take heed, take it to heart. Really look at this Passover as what it really is. As our Hebrew history is so rich, but it's a remembrance. It's a time of remembrance, and it's that protection. If I ask how many of you affirm or you desire protection, everybody's going to say that. You protect your house. How much more protection do you want? You want that spiritual protection as well. You want to be protected 365 degrees without having to, go pay, circulate monies for these protection services and all this, that, the other, and the third. Look at the wealthy. I'm going to give a great example. These people, especially in the East, they go around with protection. Why do they need protection? They desire protection because there are entities out there that are not all positive. There are negative entities out there. You have to have the good with the bad, the yin with the yang. It's important to understand. So you want to protect yourselves because you appreciate yourself. You appreciate, your very being and your responsibility to yourself. You should have that love for yourself that you would want to protect yourself. So when we look at the Passover, my goodness, it's called the Festival of Protection. Now, all of you here in elementary school, you should already have your Feast of Yahweh, the Elohim of Yisrael. That book kind of it gives you the rundown of the Passover, penned by Hakohen, Rabbi Simon Altav. I like it that they call you Sam in the East. I like that. That's pretty cool. That sounds like a American name, Sam. Anyways, yeah, that written and penned by Hakohen Sam. So it's very important that you get that book to really give you the practicalities of our festival. I know I have traditions, and I know majority of you do have traditions as well that you follow with the Passover. But what I want you to understand and comprehend from the Passover, because I'm not going to get into the deep with it because this is just elementary school. But for those of you who are doers in the way, you'll get the lecture that we talk about, the toolbox. The toolbox is awesome. It's awesome. So your toolbox is going to be important for you going forward as you go through this life. Very, very important. Rabbi Zakari, you probably really have appreciation for that lecture. It should be going into your mailboxes sometime today. I just sent it to our Kohen earlier before Shabbat. But understand that, when you look at the Passover, the Festival of Protection, I want you to understand this point. When Israel came out of Egypt by the workings of the mighty right hand of the Most High, how did the Hebrews come out? Did they come out begging like what our Queen described? Did they come out begging? Did they come out trying to make $1 out of 15 cents and standing on next to sand dunes saying, can you help me out? I got this family over here and I just lost my job. Think about this. This is very important for you to understand. You descendants of the Hebrews, you Hebrews, think about this. So as we come out of our spiritual, because look, this is what's happening. Israel has come out by the mighty right hand of the Most High in the form of a man. Look at the parallels. Our history just repeats itself. But a lot of folks don't see it. And the mighty right hand of who? Hakohen is that mighty right hand. Hakohen, if you don't mind me asking, are you right-handed or left-handed? I guarantee you're probably going to say he's right-handed. Are you right-handed, Hakohen? By the mighty right hand that Hakohen used to pen. You see, look at the parallels. Who asked the question, are you right-handed? Rabbi Sam just told you. He's right-handed. And he penned the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth Break Scrolls, amongst many other books. The books that we're telling you guys to get here in elementary school. Your Siddur was penned by Hakohen, the mighty right hand of Hakohen. How many of you understand, or how many of you can affirm that the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, or the Hidden Truth Break Scrolls, has freed you from bondage? How many of you would say that? Put up a capital B. If you say, yeah, Rabbi Kefa, when I got that translation of what they call the Bible, that Abraham, and let's just face it, Hakohen touched on this a little bit. The commentary just by itself is life-changing because it takes the Bible and it explains to die for your affirmations, to die for affirming what is just fact. It's just the facts on the ground. And so, do you see the parallels? What I want you to see about this Festival of Protection is the parallels that's happening here in 2022 with what happened thousands of years ago, when we saw the first protection rescue, or the Festival of Protection, Ruach Hashem. That mighty right hand came in to a superpower nation, and I guarantee you, the majority of you will affirm that you're living in a great shepherd nation, a very superpower, howbeit Germany, France, America, UK. These nations are powerful countries, aren't they? And they kept you, not so much the nation kept you in bondage of slavery, but you were subconsciously asleep. So you weren't woke, or you hadn't woke up yet, Israel. And we're told, and by the prophets, that Israel would wake up. She would wake up out of the slumber, And then she would do what? She would go back and she would revert back to the forever ways, the ancient ways of our forefathers. So what we're seeing here is the whole pattern that repeats itself in the Torah. You just got to get on the Torah and ride the Torah wheel. Because the wheel is not broken. It doesn't need to be fixed. But we need to understand the inner workings of the wheel. And we can't understand it on our own. And this is why we do have Hakohen in the gate to give us that guidance, that direction, the wisdom, the understanding, the instruction, the direction so that we can go on and propel ourselves forward. Because we're, just like Hakohen said, we weren't those Hebrews under Mount Sinai, but we are the descendants of those Hebrews. So just as all of them that were there, your ancestors are pushing you forward today. They're pushing you positively forward. If you want to go that way, now you can sit on your laurels and say, oh, we want to stay in Egypt. Because believe it or not, we had that. And like all of you said, when the Hebrews came out, they didn't come out begging. They came out with wealth, didn't they? When they came out of that physical bondage, they came out with wealth and prosperity and abundance. This is the pattern. And this is where we are right now. Yet, some of the Hebrews will say, no, I'm very comfortable where I am making these bricks. I'm very comfortable eating the meals of the Egyptians. I'm going to stay here. And this is exactly what we're seeing played out today before our very eyes. Any student of the Torah, you'll be able to see this. When you go back and you look at our history and you see the patterns because they're there. You got to see the patterns because they just repeat themselves. And this is exactly what we have going on today in 2022. So I would encourage you all, when you meditate and when you remember this festival of protection, always keep in the back of your mind what we just talked about, the pattern, and where you are in the pattern. And what will you decide to do? What choices will you make going forward? Are you going to follow Moses? Or are you going to stick with Pharaoh and the superpower and just believe everything, all of the fake news out there and what Pharaoh's telling you? Oh, stay with us and, we'll give you a cut of the brick-making process and we'll make you supervisor and we'll elevate you up to places. But yet at the same time, you're still not free. Free to do what you want and what you desire. And yes, some people are very happy that way. And I say, so be it. I say, so be it. If you're happy being subjugated, then so be it. If you are afraid of freedom, and you because you never experienced it, and it's kind of scary to you, then so be it. But I would encourage you all to take that leap of belief, and just begin to just do. Without knowing what you're doing, just really put all your trust and your belief in Hakohen. And believe me, he won't steer you wrong. Look at his books, all these books that he's written. He's penned with his mighty right hand. And believe me, he does have special powers. He has special powers and abilities. That's given by who? Did he make this stuff up? There's a source, there's a power, there's the powers of, again, too much is given, much is required. And so if the Kohanim have to give so much to Israel, then much is required of the Kohanim, so they have to be equipped to do these things. Because a lot of you may say, well, why don't I have those abilities? Why don't I have those special gifts? You know what I mean? Number one is because you don't meet the particular criteria. You're not in the family in that instance. You're in another part of the family to where your role is to do this. Remember, we're in a government. The government of God. The government of the Most High, the government of the God of Israel, not the God of the Christians. So look at this Passover, Mishpachah, and particularly this one, and see the pattern. See the pattern. And see exactly where Israel is today and where the Most High is taking Israel. And the barometer for all of that is going to be following the Kohen. Listen to what he's saying, because he is the direction of Israel, and he is the voice of Israel, where Israel is going to go. The sons of Aaron will guide and lead Israel going forward. I see all of the seeds of Abraham. I see all of the seeds of Moses. I see all of the seeds of Aaron and his sons. I see those seeds in Hakohen. Moses is not dead. Aaron and his sons are not dead. They're alive in Hakohen. Do you see it? The same way with all of our ancestors that sat under stood on the Mount Sinai. They're not dead. They're in all of us. They're all in each and every one of us. So we too must assume the responsibility and carry Israel forward. That's our responsibility, by how we dictate and decide on our lives and how, in what direction we want to go in. You see? That's what's important for us going forward. Note that you're not doing this alone. We have great assistance in our, let's just say, at our fingertips. There's so many things out here to assist you, to help you, to propel and to move forward. Besides our wonderful history, besides the wonderful, stories and of our matriarchs and patriarchs, besides the penned scrolls that we have, there's a lot of tools out here at our disposal. How come he told you he talks to plants and to pets and to people? I mean, my goodness, that's a clue right there. That's a clue, and this is not the first time he told you this. It shouldn't be brand new unless you're new to the room. This is not the first time that he said this. You know what I mean? And those of you that are going to get the lecture, you doers, he just told you exactly what I've been talking about in my lecture to the family. Intimate lecture that's going out to the family. So these things are important for us to understand going forward. How do you want to live your life? Do you want your life with a life of protection around you? Or what's the opposite of protection? Destruction and chaotic? Those are the choices that you have available to you, human beings. If I do a survey here in San Antonio, how many of you want protection? Let me tell you, here in Texas, everybody have protection in their house. The majority, I won't say everybody, but I'll say the majority of mostly everybody here in the state of Texas have protection in the form of a gun. They have protection for their home. They have protection. And now, before in Texas, you used to have to go through classes to carry a weapon. Well, guess what? Now you don't have to go through concealed classes. You can just carry a weapon. The laws are changing so quickly. I mean, this is literally going back to the wild, wild west here in Texas. You can now, you don't have to go through concealed carry anymore. Before you had to go through classes. No, now you can just carry it. Why? For protection. Protection against what? Well, against anything that's threatening to you. You know what I mean? And even more so, listen, the powers that be here in North America, the President of the United States of America, Mr. Biden, he's now getting ready to do away with a lot of the immigration laws that were put in place by President Trump that kept immigrants from coming into America. Now they're talking about there's going to be a big flood. How many of you have been listening about this? There's going to be a big flood of not only Ukrainians, but people coming in from the borders. You don't believe me? Go look it up. You need to go watch this. Arizona, the state of Arizona is already warning people of these strangers that's going to just start influxing and coming in from all over the place. And the dangers that are coupled with that. So, even more so, we need to be protected. Protect our families and protect ourselves against those people who may come in with some negative character traits. You see what I mean? So we need to be looking at all these factors going forward. We need to protect ourselves physically, spiritual protection, and it all plays. Again, we are the people of the books. We are the children of Israel. It's very, very important that we understand that in our place in society, in our place in this world, in our place in our nation, where we are today. Take this message going forward, take heed and take it to heart, put it in your head. Is that, the Passover is for us to remember the protection that we do have even today in 2022. Didn't just stop with the Hebrews back then. We still have that protection today. Baruch Hashem. So Taya said, but what about us single women? How does that affect us? You're under the covering of your husband, and if you're not married and you're under the covering of your teacher, you're actually under the covering of a Hakohi, Baruch Hashem. He is your teacher, right? If you claim him to be your teacher, then he's your covering. Until you do get a covering for yourself, Baruch Hashem. That's just what it is. So you'll be under the covering of HaKohen, as you are now. If you affirm that, then that's what you will be. Then you'll be under his covering until you get a covering for yourself. Baruch Hashem. And so that's where we are. Great question, by the way. And for those of you who may have any other questions, again, if you have questions about our high holy days, we're coming up on our high holy days. Our festivals are going to start coming back to back to back. So it's very important that you get the Feast of Yahweh, the Elohim of Yisrael, amongst your other books. You know, your Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the History We Break Scrolls, your Siddur. All of these books are very, very great for you to have, you know, to help you, assist you. Remember we talked about that assistance? Assist you going forward. To have that wonderful life, that peaceful life, that loving life, that life of joy, that life of happiness, that life of wealth and abundance and health. Baruch Hashem. That life is for you now, if you desire it. Baruch Hashem. You have nothing to fear. You have nothing to fear, Mishpahah. Baruch Hashem. Gogan said, what about if you're married, but he's not following? Same rule applies. You're still under the covering of your Kohen. Baruch Hashem. You're under his covering. You see, because, you know, under that particular covering, you're not getting any growth. You're not growing. You're not getting any laws of the God of Israel. And Moses is nowhere seen under that covering, so you're under the tent, under the covering of the Kohen. Same rule applies. Same rule applies. If the husband is loving you and treating you right and you're happy with the husband, stay with him. But at the same time, you're under the covering of your Kohen in the gate. You know, because your husband, you're not getting spiritually fed from your husband, right? He's probably, I don't know what he's teaching you about. Maybe he's talking to you about Jesus or, you know, this, that, the other, and the third. Maybe he's not teaching you anything or giving you any kind of, you know. But again, if he's a great man and he supplies you with clothing and shelter and food, and he loves you and he takes care of you, then hey, you know, roll with it. Baruch Hashem. Don't follow all that teaching that they say, okay, you got to divorce him immediately and come out of him and get away from him. He's evil. He's the devil. He's going to send you to hell and blah, blah, blah. No. Stop all that. Stop all that. You see, this is people that takes the Torah and then they begin to judge every individual by the Torah. And that's just not fair. And it's not just. And that's just not right. Just because they come into some knowledge, you know what I mean? You see? They come into some knowledge, so now they got to teach. Everybody is judged by the Torah now. That's just not. When you're in a Gentile nation, how you going to be judged by the Torah? I mean, even in Israel, they don't judge people by the Torah. They judge people by their what? Their Gentile government that they have established there. You see? Secretary said, what about us ladies not married? Audio went out. Oh, ladies that's not married, you under the covering of the Kohen. You're under his covering until you do get married. You're under the covering of your teacher. Who you say your teacher is, you're under his covering until you do get married. Okay? Until you do. How can I get ready for the feast when they're not doing it? Then you do it yourself. You know? It's a private thing between you and the Most High. You can do it yourself. How can I get ready for the... You do the best that you can. If they're still going to have pork, they're still going to have their bread there, you leave them to it. You know, the festival is for you. The festival is not for them, it's for you. So you do the directives. You know what I mean? You get the yeast out of your way, even though yeast is all up in your face. You know what I mean? Because they're there. That's what you do. You know what I mean? It's just it's not complicated. You know what I mean? And it's not. You know, our way of life is just not. It's not stressful. You know, it's not for you to be. You shouldn't be stressing. You should be at peace with yourself. You can't concern yourself with what others are doing, even though you may be still under that roof where they are. So tell yourself, at risk of what? What do you mean there? There's no risk to this. There's no risk. You know, you just carry on with your way of living, your way of life for you. You see, because when you stand, you know, you're going to stand by yourself. None of them other people are going to be around you. It's just going to be you. You're going to stand and you're going to, when that appointed time comes, when this life is finished, then you'll stand. You'll stand by yourself. And you'll be held accountable for yourself. You see? Consider that going forward. It's going to be important. Shabbat Shalom, Nachshon. Okay, Nachshon just wakes up in all his clothes. Shabbat Shalom, son. Okay, Papa, see that. Shabbat Shalom, Nachshon. You tell them that. Oh, you see the dog? Okay, let's go see that. Okay, so yeah. So that's going to be important for you to understand going forward. Very, very important for you to understand Mishpachah. So any other questions? Because these are great questions, by the way, because they deal with relationship. We're not here trying to break up their relationship with however they want to do it. And again, believe me, they're not trying to break up your relationship. You just continue to do your relationship with the Most High and His government, His way of life for you to follow. So, and you follow to the best of your ability. Just do the best that you can. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. Right now, Sean? Do the best that you can. Unlike Sean? Yeah. So that's going to be important going forward. Any other questions about the festivals coming up? But remember, don't come to our festivals empty-handed. Make sure that you do come with sustenance, come with currency, and come with energy. The energy you put in is the energy that you're going to get out. That's life in a nutshell. Baruch Hashem. It reminds me, everybody and their mama seen the slap Will Smith put out, right? And that reminded me when our coin was talking. How many of you seen the slap? Put up an S. The slap that he gave, what's the other character's name? He gave that guy. Anybody saw the slap? Brother David saw it. I know Brother David saw the slap. But you see, you saw that slap, right? Take that slap, and I'm going to mention this during his lecture. What a slap in the face to the Most High. You know what I mean? What a slap in the face to the Most High when you say you're in Torah, but you're really not. You're insulting the government of Moses. It's like you're slapping Moses. Oh, I know better. I know better. I know how to do it better. I'm going to do it this way. And take it or leave it. And just like our Kohen said, leave it. You'll just be left out. You'll be put outside the gates, outside the camp. Right now, John? You'll be put out. Do you want to be put out or do you want to be in? But at the end of the day, if you have alopecia, you're supposed to be chemotherapy type ball. All she was like a boy haircut. Well, that's what you could see. I don't live in that house. If the woman affirmed that she has that alopecia, then I'm not going to sit here and pass any kind of judgment on the woman. Who will sit here and want to claim a disease that they don't have? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, here's the lesson. Ignorance or not, if Will Smith knew that, if this guy, Chris Rock, knew that this woman had this condition, do you think he would even made this joke about it? But in ignorance, he made the joke about it not knowing. And even in ignorance, you can still get yourself in a lot of trouble. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the lesson that I learned in all of this. You see what I'm saying? That's the total lesson that I learned in all of this, is that, look, even in ignorance, if you do something in ignorance, it still can have effects, negative effects, So we must be careful about what we say, right? And to whom we say it to. And on Will Smith's side of it, kudos to the man for standing up for his what? For his wife. That's the bigger picture that I see in all of this slap stuff. You know what I'm saying? So what I would tell you all is to stand up for the Torah. Stand upright for the Torah, regardless of the consequences. This slap, they said, one of the captions was, the slap heard around the world. My goodness, this slap was heard around the world. Everybody saw it. Slap has consequences, right? I don't know what the Academy going to do. And just like Will Smith say, look, if you're going to have me back, I'd be glad to come back. But again, at the end of the day, what is it all about for Will Smith? It's all about the protection of his what? His family. Do you all get that? There's great lessons that you can learn behind all of this stuff. He's protecting his wife. How many men in his room? How many men in this room protect their wives? Put up a B. You're a protector of your wife. Come on, man. He stood up for his wife and he protected his wife at the end of the day. That's just what it is. At the end of the day, regardless of the consequences, because there will be consequences. For the President of the United States to make comments about this, go figure. Everybody wants to be the Monday morning quarterback. But when somebody insults your wife in front of you, what are you going to do, regardless of who's around? I mean, think about this for a minute. Everybody can sit on the side, oh, he shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was wrong, and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, he's going to lose his academy. Oh, they're not going to let him come back. But what's important to you at the end of the day? It's the protection of your family. Men, you know. Did you hear Will Smith's speech? You heard what he said? He said, man, the responsibility that God wants me to do some things. It's deeper than just the joke. Believe me, it's a lot deeper than that. There's a lot of things going on in the man's life, in Will Smith's life, where the man needs some peace. He needs some peace because he's dealing with a lot of things, and whatever's on his plate is too heavy for him. So what does he have to do? He has to lash out to release some of that. You know what I mean? Could he have handled it better? I'm pretty sure he could have. But at the end of the day, however he handled it, will you all agree that somebody's going to complain about him or say that he did it wrong? Come on, that's human. That's human beings. He's not going to get 100% approval either way he'd have played it, right? Come on now. So these are the things that we have to consider going forward. Protect your family, protect yourselves. We're a family that's already protected. That's another great blessing of the Passover for us to remember, is that we're a family that's already protected. You don't have to go out and get protection. You have protection now. You already have it. You know what I'm saying? One of the great blessings of the Passover to help us remember that we don't forget. Huh? So I say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpachah. Have a wonderful 6 days of labor ahead. Welcome back to this side of the pond, HaKohen. Great and marvelous things are happening. You know, are you going to be in or are you going to be out? Are you going to watch from the sidelines or are you going to be in the game? For all these wonderful things that are happening in the lives of great people. Baruch Hashem. So on that note, I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom. Enjoy your festival days. I'm preparing myself. Me and Nakshan getting our little menu together. And we're going to prepare for our Passover unleavened bread coming up. Baruch Hashem, as we move forward. As we pass down this history. As we prepare ourselves forward with the spirit and invoking the spirit of our ancestors. The Hebrews. That's who we are, man. That's who we are. See yourself that way and you will be that. See yourself under Mount Sinai because you were there and you are there. Baruch Hashem. So back over to you, HaKohen. Any questions? Any more questions? Feel free to put them out. But women in the room, married, single, otherwise, that, consider, maybe have some questions about covering. Your covering is HaKohen. Isn't that beautiful? Baruch Hashem. So Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom to all of you. Over to you, HaKohen.
Yes, Todah for that, Rabbi Kefa. Just a quick update for those of you that want to do the Passover tomorrow or whether you do the lunar one. Passover simply, you can just get a piece of lamb. You don't need to get a whole lamb, by the way. It doesn't need to be like a living creature and slaughtered and butchered specially for you. You just get a piece, maybe one kilogram of meat that you can consume. I mean, only enough for you to consume for your family, you, your wife, etc., children. And if it means it means you're one person and you can eat 1 pound of the meat, then sure, you get 1 pound. And you just grill it. After you grill it, you put it in your plate as a token, and then the rest of the items are all tradition. Some Jews, they put an egg. Some Jews, they put water, salted water. So they just dip their boiled egg in salted water and eat it as a tradition. It's not a Torah requirement. The Torah requirements are listed. For those of you that want to know, go read your Bibles. I'm not going to tell you here. I've told you millions of times. It's in the Siddur. You can read it up, and then you simply have that as it's simply a token, and you sit. And normally, what happens is that if there's a let's call it a congregation, then what happens is that they pick a kid, and the kid asks a number of questions regarding what happened in Egypt. And so for you, I mean, you're not in that setting. So with all the things going on in the world, COVID and everything else, you simply just go and read the Torah portion of the Exodus, in the book of Exodus, and you just read the portion that talks about the Passover talks about the requirement, talks about what God did, the 10 plagues. That's all you need to read. Really, that is all the Torah asks you to do. The Torah doesn't ask you that if you're one person, go buy a lamb, spend $300 or $400, and then roast the whole thing and eat it all by yourself, because you can't do that. It's not practical, it's not possible, and it's wasted. So what you're supposed to do is you get your 1 pound or 2 or 1 kilo if you're a family of meat, and it can be the lamb, like God said, it's like I told you, it's a token. These days the Jewish people, they just put a bone. They don't even do the meat, they put a bone. They just put a bone of a lamb, and that's a token. And so the token is just there, and then the rest is just fillers. You can do whatever fillers you like. If you like eating beans, and that's your filler. If you like eating rice, that's your filler. If you like eating, let's say, boiled broccoli, then that's your filler. So whatever you like eating will become your fillers. But there's only a number of things that were required to remember the Exodus, and there was a parsley that we put, and there was something that was like bitter, and you have this horseradish. We put a little bit of that on our plate to remind us of the bitterness of the labor that the Hebrew people endured. That's all. If you have it, great, wonderful, put it on your plate and just touch it, and you put it to your tongue, and so you get a little feeling and you give thanks. You simply, very simple way to pray. There is no proper, the Torah doesn't give you a formula and say you got to pray like this. The Torah simply asks you to put those things on the plate and just give thanks to God that He brought our people out safely from that bondage and slavery and put you into freedom. That's it. It's very simple. It's not hard. It's not church, and it's not synagogue, by the way. It's very simple. You can do it yourself at home. You can grill your piece of lamb whatever way you desire. Put it in an air fryer, put it in the baking oven, and you can do it. You can cook on the day, by the way. And so once you've done that, you can then add any fillers. Like I told you, there are traditions I do not follow those traditions, and neither do you have to follow those traditions, but unless you want to. Unless it's something that your family has been doing for a number of years. Any tradition that your family does, you must follow, by the way. Now, a student of mine, their family tradition was that they lit up a menorah on a Passover. And I told them, I said, you got to do the same thing. You got to follow your family tradition. You got to follow your family line. If your father did it, you must do it. So then they did it. Then there was a student, they said, well, in my family tradition, we gave certain amount of tithe, zadaqah, and I said, then you must follow it, because that is your family clan. That's what your clan did, and you must follow that. You cannot break away from that and say, no, I'm not going to do what my father did because I don't agree with it. But I said, no, because even the Torah tells us, our holy books tell us, that if there's a tradition in the family, it must be adhered to. So, and I'm talking about a good tradition. I'm not talking about a tradition where you put a statue up or something and you bow down to it. I'm talking about that kind of tradition. I'm talking about something that your family does. Like there may be in your family, there's a, maybe on the Passover or festival, they have a filler. Maybe they like to cook, I don't know, maybe they like to put cheesecake on their, on their Passover meal afterwards. And yes, that's a tradition, you do it. And maybe they like to put something else, but as long as there's no leaven, remember leaven, yeast. Yeast is what you got to avoid. And baking soda is not yeast. So be careful, don't start throwing out your baking powder and all that. It's not yeast. Yeast is something that you buy from Walmart or from some other store, Target maybe, or Sainsbury's or Tesco's, and you buy that yeast, you put it in your flour, and you leave it in there. So you put a little spoon, half a spoon or whatever, and you let it sit there before it raises the dough for your bread. Unless you have bread in your house, bread has got yeast in it, by the way. So I would encourage you, if it's your house, by the way, not if it's your uncle's house or auntie's house or friend's house, then you don't do any of that. Because it's not on you to clean their house. They have to do it. If they don't want to do it, leave it. So a yeast extract, if it's in a lot of food, that's okay. Just hand that food to either a neighbor or give it to a daughter, a son, somebody who is not in Torah. Okay? A Gentile. Give it to any Gentile for you to keep for a week. And you are clear of yeast. That's it. Don't throw it away. Don't waste food. Just give it to somebody to hold for you, or you can just give it as a gift. If you have a sister that doesn't believe what you believe in, doesn't keep the Torah, she's Christian, you can happily give it to her and say, hey, here, I've got some bread, please, use it. And she can use it, so it's okay. Do that. So you don't have to go read the labels, okay? Don't waste your time reading labels. Oh, is there any yeast extract in this? No. You simply do a prayer, and the prayer is simply this. You say to God that Abba, I have done the best to my ability to remove all the yeast, and if there's any left over, please forgive me. That's it. Done. End. Now, I can write you a note as a rabbi. If somebody was in the yeast business, none of you is in the yeast business, by the way, so you don't have to worry about a note either. A note is usually where I can say that your yeast, whatever yeast you have in your house, I could write a note that says that is sold to a Gentile for 1 week, and after 1 week it will revert back to you. Means that nothing leaves your house. It stays there. If you have a warehouse full of yeast, it stays there, but it is for 1 week, it belongs to a Gentile. And when that note is written, by the way, the note is not given free by rabbis. Rabbis charge for it, and the rabbis do it. Lubavitchers do it, the Ashkenazi do it, the Sephardi, they all do it. Okay, so they do it for businesses. They write your note and they charge you a little money for it, and they say, okay, the yeast for 1 week belongs to a Gentile and it doesn't belong to you, therefore no sin is upon you. So they do that too. So yeah, there is that way as well. But like I said, none of you are in the yeast business. You don't sell bread, you don't have bakeries, so it shouldn't really apply to you. But very simply, if you are carrying yeast, and it comes in a little box or a little tube or bottle, and what I used to do in England, I used to just throw it away. Get rid of it, discard it. I used to give all my bread. I didn't eat bread anyway. I didn't eat the regular bread you buy, because I don't believe in that stuff anyway. I always had unleavened food, always. My bread was always unleavened in the home, and when I lived in England, and even in Pakistan, I had unleavened bread mostly. So I don't bring bread into my home, and if you do, give it away, feed it to the dogs if you need to, or to the cats, and then or give it to a neighbor, and you're okay. Okay, and if it's unleavened, you're okay. And if it's like, if you have yeast extract, don't worry about it, because you can't get yeast extract out of things that you don't know and you're not sure. So but do not consume it. Okay, be careful for the next 7 days. If you are calling yourself a Torah person, be careful not to consume it. It's only sin when you consume it, and accidentally can do it. Sometimes accidentally you eat it and you realize, oops, I shouldn't have eaten a cake, and you ate a cake. Okay, that's got yeast in it. Oops, I shouldn't have ate bread. Oh, that's got yeast in it. Now what? Very simple. You have to send a Zadakah offering. You have to send a small offering to myself, for me to then stand and pray for you and ask for your little mistake to be forgiven. That's the way it works. Now, a student of mine asked me, how much shall I send if I make a mistake like this? And I told him, there is no set amount in the Torah. The Torah doesn't say send $10 and your sin is forgiven. The amount is up to you. Whatever you feel is the right amount. For some people, it might be $50, for some might be $100, for some might be $10. So each person varies. So this is why the Torah does not see it as a set amount, because one person is rich, he can afford $1,000, and another is poor, he can only afford $5. Okay, so therefore please try to avoid it if you can. But if a mistake is made, then you send in an offering and you just tell me that I made this mistake, I ate this item, I didn't realize that it had yeast in it, and now I realize it, so please just speak on my behalf. And I just stand, I face Jerusalem, I speak on your behalf, and I seek forgiveness for you, and it's the end of that. Nothing comes on you. no bad things affects you. But really, yeast also means that try to remove the evil, bad things in your life, and if you can do that, wonderful. And that's where we'll leave it. Okay, so have a wonderful Passover, wonderful Sabbath, wonderful day, and look after yourselves. Thank you very much for attending. Shabbat Shalom. Shalom.